Cool. So today in the morning, Anu has already briefly introduced you with the Startup Lifecycle. So I will not repeat it, just a picture as a reminder that each startup goes through different stages during its existence, and on different stages, different options of financing become relevant. And the earlier stage you have, the more actually you have to rely on yourself and on different equity-free options, because at this point, you are, at this point, you sort of are not yet very well prepared for pitching to investors, because investors don't yet realize which value you can provide. And before going to those funders who start asking you for some equity in your company, you need to have a better validated case, which you can already present and which you can already explain to your investors. And when you just create your startup, when you just start thinking about your idea, then you usually start from bootstrapping, or in other words, you start from your own money. That means that on the pros side, you have very easy access to your money because it's yours, it's in your pocket. You don't need to dilute your equity with anyone because, again, it's you and your co-founders. But on the other side, usually these funds are quite limited unless you are a billionaire. And also, such mode of financing your startup is usually suitable for smaller scales of businesses and for very early stages when you're just playing around with the idea, when you're trying to validate it for the first time. More or less on the same stage, you also have this famous 3 Fs or 4 Fs or 5 Fs, depending on how you define it. In the very beginning, most of people were just speaking about friends, family, and fools. But later on, some more Fs were added to this definition, meaning that these are also fans, and also, of course, you can use Facebook. And what it means, it means that you have to talk to your closest circle already in the very beginning. You need to persuade them that your idea is valid, that that you have chances to succeed, that your team is capable of implementing the vision that you have chosen for yourself. Again, as with bootstrapping, these funds are easily accessible because you know those people, at least in terms of friends and family. Speaking about other categories, you just have to be bold in terms of sharing your message. Just put social media posts, talk to your early adopters, and so on. And also, if you're speaking about the terms of receiving the money, as a rule, this money is either donated to you or is given to you on very flexible terms. Again, usually this money is not endless. It has some limitations. And also, if you're speaking about loans from your family members, there could happen some difficulties later on. If, for instance, you can't implement your vision, then it will be a lot about your diplomacy and negotiation skills to explain it to your family members why you can't actually repay the money. And in some cases, your personal relations may suffer. Then we have grants, which are also very well suitable for the early stage startups. And you have to keep an eye on all possible programs and tenders that are announced by different organizations. Again, it's good that this money is equity free. You can get a lot of pre-validation for future rounds, but you have to consider that usually for any grant, there is huge competition. You've already seen it in the case of Prototron, that there were like around 300 applications and only around 60 were selected. And in earlier batches, even less teams were selected. This time you're lucky that something like 20 applications more selected to the first group. And also, in terms of any grants, you have to consider that there are very strict conditions for using the money. In most of the cases, you have to be prepared for reporting what you did for the money, whether you use it for the purposes that were actually indicated in the terms and conditions for any grant competition, and also whether you used the money in the way as you promised to use them when you applied for the money. So be very meticulous about following up what you're doing, how you're doing, and whether you're doing everything in the right way. Don't lose any documents that are related to this, to the grant money, allocate them properly. And in the cases when you're not sure what to do and how to report, then think about hiring some specialists in this field, because this will eventually save you a lot of time and money. Once you get more mature, once you get already a better feeling about what you would like to propose, and once you already are testing your prototypes and MVPs, and when you already have something done, then it's very good point. It's very good time for applying to different incubators and accelerators. If you're speaking about incubators, then at incubators you get a lot of mentorship from professionals. You get a lot of networking possibilities. In many cases, you also get a physical place where to sit. While during today's situation, maybe the physical space is not that relevant, because we are not allowed to go a lot like to public places, but hopefully this time will be over in the nearest months. And so you will be able to use some rooms, and in some cases also some research facilities at the incubators. And if to speak about monetary support, then a lot of incubators don't really provide you with any money as such, but they provide you with benefits in kind, meaning that a lot of mentors work with you for free, they share their contacts, they help you with moving forward, and also you can use the facilities for free. If you're speaking about accelerators, then in terms of accelerators, you have to be prepared that a lot of accelerators give you some money, but request some equity. So it's not equity-free money. But as a rule, this money that you receive from accelerators is not a very huge sum. The sums are quite limited, but at the same time, also in the case of accelerators, you get a lot of mentorship and networking support, and also some useful introductions to investors and so on. But usually you don't really get any additional opportunities to use any, I don't know, research facilities or something like this. What you need to consider is that both in the cases of incubators and accelerators, you have to be physically present in the country where those programs take place. Again, no one could really envisage the situation that we are in now, that there will be lockdowns and borders will be closed and so on. And therefore, at the moment, a lot of accelerators and incubators are trying to transfer all of their programs into an online regime. We don't know how long this situation will prevail, but if eventually the restrictions will be cancelled, then I suppose that a lot of accelerators will get back to their usual model. And if they start requiring you to come physically to some place, then you need to consider that first, you will need some money to live in another country, because not all of the accelerators provide some monetary allowances for that. And also, you will need time to actually be in another country. And this is especially vital for those startups which are trying to develop their startup on the side of their sort of main business. So you have to analyze this. Then let's speak about angel investors. Angel investors are usually quite early investors. They join the startups, when startups are yet planning their later validation stages and early growth stages. And the interest of angel investors is to join your company as early as possible, then participate quite closely in the determination of your strategy, in the determination of the development of your company, and then to bring you to the stage when for them it will be beneficial to exit and to earn money on top of their investment. Of course, also angel investors share their network, their contacts. They're also ready to share risks with you, but you need to be prepared that they will require regular and quite detailed reporting from you. Angel investors want to be involved in your strategic meetings. They want to share their opinion. They want to be very closely sort of participating in your business. And in some cases, it can lead to situations when you can't actually get to an agreement with the angel investors, because you as the founder and as the CEO may have a completely different opinion on how to develop your company, which strategy to select. And if you can't reach an agreement, if you can't get to any kind of a compromise, then actually it may lead to a situation that the angel investor will exit earlier, and then you will need to negotiate the conditions for that. And also you will need to be prepared where to get this money, which will be done with this investor. So it's very much about personal relations with the investor. It's very much about the art of making negotiations, the art of being flexible, and also your own opinion of how much you can refuse from your own plans. Now, venture funds. Venture funds get to your story and start thinking about investing into startups, usually on those stages of the startup development when it's much more clearer whether the startup is capable of reaching very remarkable goals and remarkable results. It's quite unusual when venture funds start investing into very early stage startups. Of course, there are some like pre-seed funds and seed funds, but at the moment I'm mostly speaking about those venture funds which invest at like growth stages and at some later stages. Because like for most venture funds, it's very important to get quite a big share in the startup, and they want to make an exit in quite a short time. And unlike, for instance, angel investors, venture funds will not be very closely involved into your strategy determination, into your, I don't know, weekly management meetings and so on. But of course, they will keep an eye on your pace of development, and they will make controls of whether you are sticking to the plan that you agreed about. And venture funds, as I mentioned, want to invest into a big share of your company. Of course, they will negotiate as low valuation as possible to get this share at a modest amount of money. And they care about exiting the investment with the highest possible return on investment. Of course, for those companies which would like to fuel their growth, venture funds are a very good source of financing. But to get this financing, you have to be very, very attractive for them. And again, you have to be prepared for keeping tough negotiations. about all the terms of and conditions. Today in the morning, Anu talked a lot about debt financing or about banking financing. I will not go into it again, just maybe a couple of highlights that it's good that it's equity free, but it's not accessible for early stage companies, or almost not accessible, because to get a bigger amount of debt financing, a bigger loan, you need to demonstrate sustainable cash flows, you need to have some collaterals, and you need to have certain history of your operations. If you're just on the very early stage of your development, then usually it's quite impossible to get any bigger loans from the banks. And the very sort of last way of financing your business, and last in terms of your stage of the operations, is IPO, or initial public offering. And that suits those companies which have already passed all of their business model validations, idea validations. They've already gone to the market. They have a lot of clients. They validated all of their value propositions. They have started scaling. They've entered several markets, and now they want to attract even more funds from general public. And they're sure that they will be attractive for those people. IPO, of course, is a very good way to fundraise, but you have to account with the fact that it's a very expensive way, because it requires a lot of dedication to prepare your documents for the stock exchange. You have to account with the bureaucracy. You have to account with the reports that you will need to provide on a quarterly basis after becoming public. What is very lucrative about this option is, of course, liquidity to your shares, and also the observable market value in the live regime. For instance, an example of Facebook, which was very successful when they got to the stock exchange, and their market value has risen, meaning that people were happy to acquire their shares, and they believed in the company. There are some examples that are not that successful as well, that companies went to the stock exchange, but after starting trading, their market value actually decreased because they were too optimistic about it. And today we will speak more about crowdfunding and different benefits that crowdfunding provides to the companies and also to the backers. What is crowdfunding? In general, the crowdfunding is bringing a lot of people together to implement some good projects. And this mode of financing different initiatives is known from very ancient times. Just in our modern world, this process is now automated through different internet platforms. And at the moment, we can speak about 4 main crowdfunding types. One of them is donation-based crowdfunding, meaning that funders give you money, but they don't await anything in return. They just like your project. A lot of charitable projects use this crowdfunding type. But this could also be any type of project. For instance, like in the context of the Prototron program, we are exactly speaking about the donation-based crowdfunding, that people will need to get motivation for supporting your idea, for supporting your project, for supporting your team. But you don't need to provide them with any tangible benefits. If you want, you can offer something, but you don't have to. Then as a kind of a sub category of donation-based crowdfunding is rewards-based crowdfunding. That means that backers give you their money and you provide them with some rewards for their money. For instance, on the platform Kickstarter, a lot of projects are being funded in this way, and backers get, for instance, the very first batches of some innovative product in return for their money. Or they can use some new service for free or almost for free if they support the service provider, and so on. In Estonia, for instance, we have Hooandja, which is mostly focusing on art projects and creative projects. And for instance, a lot of designers finance their the creation of their new collections via this platform. And the backers get invitations to the fashion show, so they get some pieces of the collection for free. Then there's a very widespread type of crowdfunding, which is equity-based crowdfunding. In these projects, backers get shares in the companies, which they invest into via platforms. And in the lending-based crowdfunding, funders provide money and they get interest for the money. And at the end of the fixed term, they also get the principal amount back. In Estonia, in the lending-based crowdfunding, we mostly have those platforms which finance real estate development projects in this way. Also, in the peer-to-peer lending, we have some platforms which provide such possibilities to natural persons and business entities just to exchange money and get such quick loans via the platforms. And in the equity-based crowdfunding, Fundwise is now the only platform in the Baltics which provides the purely equity-based crowdfunding possibilities. And Fundbeam is a kind of a mixed platform, which is partially equity-based, partially like loan-based. And they also tokenize some of the investments. Why it can be attractive for campaign authors and backers to get involved into rewards or donations-based crowdfunding. And why it is actually most suitable for those companies which are on their early stages of the development. Because via this type of crowdfunding, you can raise equity-free money. You can try your crazy ideas and get the first validation to them. It's very good to listen to the feedback that your backers provide, but it's even better and more important to listen to the feedback of those people who don't support you, because they may actually provide you with even more important insights. For instance, they may tell you that, you know, you're a nice guy, but I don't believe in your vision. I don't believe that you will be capable of implementing it. Or, for instance, that I know tens of similar products and I can't see any point of differentiation that you are providing. So when you launch a campaign, try to get feedback from both sides, from those people who give you money and from those people who actually don't give you money. Then also, if you're speaking about this rewards or donations type of crowdfunding, you don't necessarily have to apply for huge sums. You can apply for very incremental sums, or in some cases, platforms give you a possibility to apply for the sums which don't have any fixed goal. So literally, you will get as much as people like give you, and by this you can reach some of your step-by-step or incremental goals. Then Also, what is important that through such campaigns, you get a lot of visibility to your idea, to your product, to your service. If you already have any brand, then of course you can promote your brand as well. You can invite people to become your testers. You can make some pre-sales of your services and products. And also you can get not only financial supporters, but you also can get some like-minded people who will be willing to offer you any other help. For instance, some advisory help or some design help, some IT development help. So you can get a kind of a like enlarged team. And of course, a lot of brand ambassadors and your idea ambassadors. And for those who support such rewards and donations-based campaigns, there are also quite many different benefits, because of course there are some people who are just looking for some discounted products, or who are looking for some interesting perks which are offered during these campaigns. But there are a lot of people who are looking for something that they can relate to. They're looking for the projects in which they can co-create some valuable result. Of course, those people who know you as a co-founder or your team would be also likely to support you if they believe in your capacity, if they believe in the contents of your project. So there is a whole array of different things that people consider when they select projects which they would like to support. As in case with any other fundraising possibility, you have to consider some limitations as well. If we're speaking about a full-scale campaign, for instance, on Kickstarter or on Honya or on Indiegogo, these campaigns are quite time-consuming because you will need to think through how you structure your message, which contents you share with your audience, and how you market your things. And also you have to consider with the fact that there will be a lot of similar projects which will be featured at the same time. So any backer that doesn't know you personally will need to choose which project to support. In the case of this Prototron campaign, you will not need to prepare very long descriptions. The information that you will need to submit will be quite limited. In this sense, it will not be that time consuming. But if to speak about marketing, then still you will need to invest quite a lot of time to plan all the campaign, to plan whom you will target the campaign to, how you will talk to your target audience. And we will speak about it a bit later. Now a few words about equity-based crowdfunding. In the case of equity-based crowdfunding, we are mostly speaking about more mature companies. Equity-based crowdfunding is not suitable for the companies which are just starting. Because as I mentioned, at those stages, you can't yet explain to your investors what exactly you're offering to the market, how they can earn on you, why they should believe in you. Before starting with the equity-based crowdfunding, I suggest you trying out rewards-based or donation-based crowdfunding, and trying out all the other means of financing like grants, FFF, bootstrapping, and all those means, and also angel investments actually. Because in terms of angel investments, you have the one-to-one conversation with your investor. In terms of equity-based crowdfunding, you have tens and hundreds of small investors who will need to be persuaded to give you money, and also who will need to understand exactly why you have chosen this valuation. What are the main benefits for the campaign authors? Again, you engage your fans and clients more. You transform them into loyal co-owners. You transform them into even more loyal brand ambassadors. At the same time, you don't lose the control over the firm, because usually during the equity-based crowdfunding, only some marginal percentage of your firm is offered to the new investors. Also, like with the donation-based crowdfunding, you become more visible to all the stakeholders. And also during the equity-based crowdfunding, you don't only collect money from your fans and clients, but also from smaller professional investors. And sometimes even some more strategic investors, you can become interested via your campaign. In a way, this equity-based crowdfunding is a kind of a mini IPO, but you don't need to prepare all the prospectus, you don't need to prepare all the other paperwork that is required by the stock exchange. And the post-campaign reporting is much less bureaucratic. Also, unlike with donation-based crowdfunding, also in the case of equity-based crowdfunding, you can leverage expertise of your new shareholders. You can sort of enlarge your community in general. And for the investors, it's lucrative to get access to those companies which are not listed, but at the same time provide good potential for growing. Also, they are pre-validated by the platform, so investors don't need to start with their due diligence from the scratch. Also, investors get access to the success stories of their favorable companies, which without a crowdfunding campaign they couldn't get access to. And for those investors who are just starting their investment journey, it's a good way to test whether, like, how investment works, whether they can actually choose the right investment targets. And the administrative costs are very minimal. And yeah, in general, it's a good way, again, to contribute to the economic growth, to contribute to success stories of the companies that they like, and feel that they belong to something good. If to speak about cons, some companies are afraid of making the cap table too long, but this can be mitigated by different structures of the crowdfunding campaign. For instance, you can use a special purpose vehicle where all the crowdfunding investors will invest, and then this special purpose vehicle, as one crowdfunding investor, invests in the operating company and gets the share there. Also, some authors of the crowdfunding campaigns are hesitant about whether they will be capable to communicate to many investors at the same time. But in our view, it's not an obstacle, it's more a benefit, that you will actually get a lot of people that already like you, that would like to get engaged with your company in a way, and use it as an opportunity, not as a threat. In our experience at Fundwise, we haven't really heard about any negative cases of communication to investors. On the opposite, we've heard about many positive cases when new investors helped the majority owners to overcome some further difficulties and provided their expertise, for instance, like in legal matters, in financial matters, also provided some bridge financing in some cases, and so on. So don't be afraid of that. In terms of reporting, we not even like suggest doing that, but in a way require that campaign authors report to all of their investors, both old and new, at least on a quarterly basis. That the form of the reporting is free to choose. We don't have any specific templates. It's more about, sending some newsletters or some updates about how the firm is going, and by this keeping your co-owners informed about how the company is doing. Now a bit about the practical matters. These checkpoints actually are valid about not only a crowdfunding campaign, but generally about your value proposition and the description about description of your activities. When you prepare a campaign on a crowdfunding platform, or when you prepare communication to your potential backers, first of all, of course, you need to understand why you're doing this thing and what you're doing. Why you think that your product or service is important, whose pain you are going to solve, and how you're going to do that. For instance, if you are building a platform for, I don't know, let us take a platform for taxi drivers. You think that you can do much better than Bolt, Uber, or whoever is doing now. You need to understand whether it's your personal feeling, is your subjective feeling that you will do better, or you have some pre-validations already made. For instance, maybe you have come up with some new technical solution for making those platforms better user-friendly for all the participants of the marketplace. And you will target this platform to both like taxi drivers and taxi users, and you will do it much better than any other market player is doing now. And to explain this to your potential backers, you have to be very, very concise and clear, because whenever a person sees a mention of another new platform, then a lot of people just have a resistance like from the first word, because there are too many platforms in all the domains at the moment, and especially, for instance, in the taxi market. So be clear who you would like to engage, who will need your product, why will they need it, and why will they be willing to switch from the existing products of the same kind. And be clear how exactly you will deliver your value proposition. Once you are done with this, assess the resources that you have at the moment. For instance, if you are alone, then will you need any team for implementing at least the very first vision? If yes, then who should be in this minimum team? We're not now speaking about, your growth stage or your scaling up stage. We're speaking about the very early stage. And of course, you need to be clear about how much will it cost you to implement your vision, at least on the very minimum scale. Then in the context of a campaign, it's very important to understand who is your target audience, who will actually support you. Do you want to involve your friends, family, fools, and fans? Do you want to involve professional investors? Do you want to involve a mixture of those two groups? Like, who are those people who will like your product, who will be willing to support you? Think about those channels that they use to get to know about your campaign and your product. And think about the value proposition that you provide to your investors or your backers. As we discussed, in the case of equity-based campaigns, you propose your equity, so you need to be clear about the company valuation. In case of rewards-based campaigns, you provide some benefits, some perks. And in the case of donation-based campaigns, you don't provide any tangible benefits. But in order to engage people, your story as a whole should be appealing to them. They should see the beauty in your idea. They should believe in your team. They should be happy and proud if they donate money to you. So there should be a kind of, personal recognition that they can attach to themselves in a way. And of course, you have to remember that any crowdfunding campaign is also a marketing campaign, or maybe even primarily a marketing campaign. So you will hit both targets simultaneously. On one hand, you have a chance to raise money. On the other hand, even if you don't raise the money that you planned to, in any case, your visibility will become much better after the end of the campaign. Those questions that I've mentioned now are mostly valid about bigger scale campaigns, about some full-fledged campaigns, so to say. In the context of Prototron, we are speaking about a more limited scale campaign. You will not need to prepare a full description of every bit of the information that I've mentioned now, but some basic things should be there, meaning that you will need to provide a very short pitch, like written pitch, in one paragraph max, which would summarize the contents of your project or your idea. And from this paragraph, people should understand what you are doing, for whom you are doing, why you are doing. And in another part of your project description, you will provide a description of your team, of your current team. Again, try to be creative when you write about your team. Indicate the roles of each of the team members to let people understand that you've already thought things through, that you've already started. And as additional documents, we urge you to film a short video, but it's not compulsory. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you have the capacity, you can shoot a very short video, like 2 minutes max, again, explaining what you're doing and why people should decide to support you. And since you will also prepare a one-pager for the Prototron program, you can also attach this one-pager to your campaign description. So if people want, they can read more information about you in this one-pager. Speaking about marketing, I would like to share some tips with you. First of all, keep your texts simple and concise. Avoid any kinds of sophisticated terms and descriptions. Even if you are trying to develop a very scientific startup, try to describe your idea in such words that even non-technical people or non-scientific people understand that. It's a kind of, grandma or mom test, that any person should understand what you are doing. Afterwards, when you get into discussions with some like-minded professionals or scientists, of course, you can switch to the scientific jargon. But when you prepare materials for your crowdfunding campaign, keep it simple. Also, even before starting the campaign, try to sort of preheat your target audience. Put information about your campaign on your webpage. Put information about the campaign on your social media channels. Initiate collecting emails from those people who show their interest in your activities. And once they sign up, keep this list active. And when your campaign goes live, inform those people first, because they're your most loyal users and supporters already. Of course, think of some sharing games in social media, or think of some other creative things. For instance, in one of our previous batches, one team shared a video showing where actually they do things and how they do things, how they prepare their product. And this video went viral. A lot of people started sharing it, and they got a lot of new followers and backers. Also, you may think about preparing some short posts talking about your value proposition separately, or showing some, I don't know, pictures of your product, or showing some short videos about how you do things. And you can share them on different dates in your social media, and by this also keep your followers and your users engaged. And of course, in each of those posts, put the link to your campaign and sort of direct people to your campaign page. Don't forget that some of your potential backers may use some sort of unusual sources, unusual communication channels. People may prefer phone, they may prefer usual emails. Not everyone is on social media. So think about your potential backers and try to reach them in the channels which they use. Don't assume that everyone is on Facebook or everyone is on Twitter or elsewhere. Try to tap on different channels. Also during the campaign, put information about your campaign to your web page. Use some pop-up messages which would direct people to your campaign page, and so on. I think on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, you will have a separate seminar about how to build your web page. And so once you get those pieces of advice, think also how to link your web page and your crowdfunding campaign page. And as I mentioned previously, although in the context of Prototron, we're speaking about donation-based campaigns, if you have some valid offers to your supporters, you can mention them in the campaign text. For instance, if you want to provide them with some, I don't know, discounts in the future or something else. But don't rely on this. Think more about how to make your message interesting and engaging as such. Try to think how to make people wish to support you, even if they don't get anything tangible in return. Because this campaign is your first, or one of the first possibilities to validate your idea, to validate your business model, to validate your value proposition, and to get the real-time feedback from your potential clients and fans. And I would like to reiterate once again, try to talk also to those people who don't give you money. Listen to them as well and analyze their feedback, because that could be even more helpful to you in the future. And some organizational matters. All of you are welcome to start with your campaign, but you're not forced to do that. So if you don't want to start with a campaign, it's up to you to decide. Participation is totally free, and all the campaigns will be put on our subdomain, prototron.fundwise.me. I will share a link to our Google form, and all the teams that would like to participate will need to fill in the Google form. I'm sorry, I think I have, no, the deadline is correct. Yeah, I will share the form today or on Monday, the latest. And you will need to submit it by 27th of April, 23:59. I think that the deadline for submitting your one-pager and for making your landing page, your web page is also the same. So you will need to submit everything by the same deadline. And then we'll need some time to put the information to our platform. Once it's there, we will share the links. You will have some time to review it. If you have any comments, we will adjust. And then on the 7th of May, the latest, campaigns will go live. We will target to put them live earlier. But just in case there will be some delays or something, this is like the latest day. And they will be open until the day when the closing ceremony will be held. And usually we close all the campaigns around 2 hours before the beginning of the award ceremony. So you will have at least 3 weeks to promote your campaign. And even if you don't get to the next round, I mean, like if you don't get to top 20, your campaign will still remain active until 28th of May. So don't worry about it. Although our campaigns will not have any monetary targets in a way, you will not need to specify how much money you would like to raise. There is still the minimum sum that you need to hit. It's 250 euros. So you need to collect at least this amount. If you don't collect this, then all the money will be returned to backers. So it's a kind of a motivation point for you to make you work a bit. And the team which will collect the biggest sum will get a special prize from Fundwise, because we would like to support you as well. So I think this is it from my side. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you for your attention.